In the previous video, we covered how do we calculate different types of costs which are involved in cost of production, like total cost, average total cost, variable cost, average fixed cost, and so on. In this tutorial, you will be clear why does, let's say, total cost shapes the way it does, or what is the shape of average fixed cost, and why do these cost curves are given respective shapes. The table, you get a graph like this. So on vertical axis you have the respective costs and the horizontal area shows you quantity. So we begin with fixed cost first. Fixed cost is the straight horizontal line in orange. And remember, in the table fixed cost was same, it was 10. That's why the line is straight, it doesn't show us any fluctuations. Because remember, regardless you're producing one quantity or sixth unit, your fixed cost would be same because it's fixed. And then the other curve is variable cost. You notice variable cost rises as you produce more. And you know the notion behind that. It's very simple. If you're producing more units of any commodity, let's say you're making more cakes, so that would require more resources like more electricity bill. You might have to hire more labor or even have to buy more raw materials. So variable cost shows us fluctuations. As you produce more, it rises. As you produce less, it will decrease. And finally, you have total cost. So fixed cost plus variable cost equals total cost. That's why total cost will be always greater than variable and fixed cost. So the total cost curves which we just covered, they're really important, but they are not as important as per unit cost. I'm referring towards average variable cost, average total cost, average fixed cost, and marginal cost. That's because in coming chapters, as in the 4 market structures, we would be emphasizing on drawing all these curves, especially per unit cost. So it's important you understand the shape of the curve and why do they have respective shapes. So we begin with average fixed cost first. Average fixed cost is a downward sloping curve. If you notice, as you increase your quantity, as you produce more, your average fixed cost decreases. But why? If you refer to the previous graph, you notice fixed cost is a fixed amount and it does not change regardless you produce one quantity or 10 quantity. But here it is decreasing because you're calculating average, and that is by a formula fixed cost divided by quantity. So suppose if your fixed cost is 10 and you're dividing it by 2, that is you want to know average fixed cost of 2 units, that would be 5, 10 by 2. But if you're increasing your output, so that fixed amount you would be dividing by a larger number, and as you divide it by a larger number, the value you get, it's a small number. For instance, divide 10 by 2 and divide 10 by 20. You notice the values would be different and 20 would be smaller than average fixed cost of second output. Coming towards the next curve, it's marginal cost. So marginal cost curve, it always goes down and up due to law of diminishing marginal returns. So in simpler words, diminishing marginal return is that if you keep on adding variable resources into fixed resource, your output decreases and cost of production increases. So I will use the same example I gave you of the bakery. So suppose you have the same area of the bakery and you're not expanding, because you cannot expand bakery in short run. That's a long run scenario. But you can add more resources, like you can buy more resources or you can add more labor. So that's what you can do in short run. So if you keep on adding labor into the bakery, initially your total cost will fall because per unit, as in per labor, productivity will be high. But if you keep on adding more labor beyond optimum point, what will happen? Definitely the area is fixed and you're adding more people in it. It would be crowded and congested, and you will have problems of coordination problems, mismanagement, and this will affect per labor productivity, and also the cost would rise. So that's why marginal cost curve goes down and then up. Third, we have average variable cost. So average variable cost also rises and it hits minimum cost at its lowest point. Again, it's very simple that if you add more resources, as in you buy more milk, flour, or you're adding more labor, this will increase the cost. So that's why as you produce more, average variable costs tend to rise. And finally, you have average total cost. Average total cost have a U shape, and also you notice like it's falling and then it rises. So why the first half is a downward sloping curve? Because it depicts average fixed cost. Average fixed cost is also downward sloping, and then the area which is rising, that depicts average variable cost because it increases as you produce more output. Remember, fixed cost is variable cost is equal to total cost. So here we're talking about ATC, so it's AVC plus AFC. That's why it's a U-shaped curve. So it does look a bit difficult, or I rather say terrific, but you just need to understand the shape of the curve, so I don't think it would be a problem. So now you're aware how do you draw these cost curves. The next question is, how do you read this graph? Or what does each graph tell you? For example, if you don't have a table and I ask you questions like, what is marginal cost of fourth quantity? And what is average total cost? What is average variable cost and average fixed cost? You can answer all these questions by looking at this graph. So suppose if I ask what is marginal cost of fourth unit. So from fourth quantity you go up, hit the marginal cost curve, and the value besides is your marginal cost. So it's 12. If I ask you what is average total cost of fourth unit, again you go up, hit the average total cost curve, and it's 10. So your average total cost is 10. What about average variable cost? It's 8. And average fixed cost, it's somewhere between 3 and 4. Let's consider it 4. But apart from per unit cost, this graph can also depict the total cost. So how do you calculate total cost of fourth unit? So from fourth unit you go up to average total cost, and it's 10. So 4 times 10, it's 40. 40 is your total cost. But if you want to know how much is variable cost and how much is fixed cost, so again you go up from fourth quantity to AVC, it's 8. 4 times 8 is 32. So your average, not average, your variable cost is 32. Then how much would be your fixed cost? It's simple. The difference is 8. 8 is your fixed cost. So it's very simple. That's how Even if you don't have a table, you can answer these questions. For your practice, I have given you some questions and you need to solve them exactly the way I just solved the previous questions where per unit cost. So here you need to answer what is marginal cost, average total cost, average variable cost, average fixed cost, and total cost at 5 units. So practice these questions and I hope you would be clear on these. And don't forget reading the book.